So these are the parts you will require: a transmitter, a compatible receiver, a pair of scissors, a hot glue gun, a LiPo battery charger, a 2S LiPo battery, some Allen keys M2 and M3, needle nose pliers, bolt cutter, and also a small Phillips head screwdriver. This is what you will receive when you get the kit. So this is what you get in the kit: the wing assembly, the rudder assembly, the elevator assembly. You get a 500 mm carbon rod, a pair of wheels, front and rear wing mounts, battery and ESC holder, Velcro battery straps and zip ties, control horns, servo and receiver holders, 2 MG90S servos with servo horns and screws, push rod holder and rear landing wheel, a 40 amp ESC, a 2200 kV BLDC motor, motor mount and screws. You also get the tail section. You also get a 1 mm and 2 mm push rod. Now let's continue with the fuselage assembly. This is how you assemble the fuselage. Make sure to use the wing as a reference point so every part is aligned. You may have to adjust the parts accordingly so everything is in place. Once done, your fuselage must look something like this. Once you're happy with the position of all the parts on the fuselage, you can proceed to hot glue it and fix it permanently. Now let's glue the tail section and the rudder section, being careful to align everything perfectly, as it will be difficult to adjust it later on. Apply some hot glue on the mid section of the elevator and then glue in the rudder section. Now that the tail section is complete, let's screw in the servos. Use the servo screws provided in the kit to do this with a small Phillips head screwdriver. Once you're done with that, it should look something like this. Now let's glue in the elevator control horn, as you can see. In the same way, we must also glue the rudder control horn. Now let's insert the 1 mm push rod through the guide holes in the fuselage. We will now perform what is called as a Z-bend using the help of needle nose pliers. We will then insert this Z-bend into the control horn of the elevator section. As you can see, the Z-bend prevents the push rod from coming out of the control horn. Now the same procedure is repeated for the rudder section. Another set of Z-bends are made at the servo horn side, and any excess push rod is cut off with the help of bolt cutters. Now let's mount the 2200 kV BLDC motor with the help of motor screws to the motor mount. Insert the motor wires through the guide hole of the motor mount. Make sure that the motor is rotating freely while you screw it in. Insert the provided Velcro battery straps through the battery holder to secure the battery in place. You can now proceed to zip tie the ESC onto the battery holder. You can now place the receiver on the receiver holder and zip tie it as well. You can now proceed to make the connections from the ESC and the servos to the receiver. You can now connect your battery, bind the receiver to the transmitter and see if all the control surfaces are moving accordingly. Now let's move on to making the landing gear. Cut the 2 mm push rods and bend it as shown. Insert the 2 mm push rods into the front wing mount. Hot glue the push rods in place and add a bamboo skewer for bracing. You can then insert the wheels into the push rod and add a dab of hot glue at the end to secure them in place. The same process is repeated for the tail wheel. Now let us work on balancing this plane and making sure that the CG is in the right place. First, secure the wing with the help of 2 rubber bands. You can see that the CG point of this plane has been marked with 2 black dots. Place your fingers below these dots and ensure that the plane is level. If the plane is not level and is tail heavy, it will fly poorly. So to compensate for this, add weights to the nose section or the motor mount. Your plane should be something like this. Set up and bind the plane to the transmitter and ensure all the control surfaces are moving in accordance to the inputs from the transmitter. If any of them are moving in the opposite direction, you can then reverse the channels. You can also sub-trim the plane to ensure that all the control surfaces are aligned perfectly before you head out to fly.